Hello, I'm Evely and I will tell you one story. Let's go. It began on an unremarkable autumn evening when the sky was a murky, oppressive gray and a cold wind whispered secrets along deserted streets. I was wandering a neglected corner of a flea market, a place where forgotten relics and discarded oddities lay in silent testament to lost histories, when my eyes fell upon a pair of used headphones. Their casing was a faded black, worn and scarred by time, the surface marred with scratches and mysterious, almost imperceptible inscriptions. The words on the ear cups appeared to shift in the dim light as though alive with secrets. Drawn inexplicably to them, I purchased the headphones for a pittance, unaware that in that moment my life was about to veer into a realm of darkness and unutterable dread. That very night, alone in my cramped apartment with only a solitary lamp for company, I decided to try them on. Hoping for the soothing escape of music, I instead found a low, persistent static. Almost imperceptibly amid the hiss of electrical noise came a series of disjointed murmurs. At first, I assumed the strange sounds were simply the product of worn-out circuitry. But as I fiddled with the volume, the murmurs gained clarity, coalescing into eerie, garbled words that carried an authority both commanding and chilling. Obey, return, forget not the past. I dismissed it at first as a quirk of an old device. Yet, night after night, the headphones divulged more. The whispers became insistent, their cadence creeping beneath my skin and entwining with my thoughts. I began hearing orders even when I wasn't wearing them, as though the device had seeped its dark influence into my very mind. Each time I attempted to remove the headphones, my hands trembled uncontrollably, and it felt as if the contraption were fused to my ears by a force beyond comprehension, a relentless pressure urging me to listen, to heed the cryptic commands. One stormy night, as thunder rumbled like distant war drums and rain battered my window with the ferocity of spectral fingers, I yielded to an overwhelming compulsion. Seated in utter darkness with only the soft glow of my phone's screen, the headphones vibrated faintly against my head. The static gave way to a deep, resonant voice that seemed to speak directly into my consciousness. Follow the sound of truth. Venture into the abandoned halls of the forgotten. Its tone brooked no argument. It was as if a primordial force had awakened within me, compelling me to step into a nightmarish journey beyond the boundaries of the ordinary. Compelled by terror mingled with a twisted curiosity, I donned the headphones and left the safety of my apartment. The familiar city transformed before my eyes. Rain-slicked streets, usually brimming with the mundane routine of everyday life, now shimmered with an eerie luminescence under flickering streetlights. Shadows writhed like specters at the edge of vision, and every footfall seemed to echo with the ghostly refrain of that ominous voice. Though I could not recall the exact destination it demanded, an inexplicable pull urged me onward, as if the very device were guiding my steps toward a fate predetermined by some long-forgotten curse. Before long, I found myself before an imposing, derelict building. Its once grand facade was now a tapestry of decay, with crumbling stonework and shattered windows that stared like hollow eyes into the void. The headphones' whisper intensified, urging, within these walls lies the truth. My skin crawled at the thought of entering, yet the lure was irresistible. With trembling hands, I pushed open the creaking door and stepped into a foyer choked with dust and the stagnant odor of abandonment. Every step inside was marked by a cacophony of echoes, the steady beat of my heart, the distant drip of water, and the soft, insistent murmur of the headphones. Peeling wallpaper, faded portraits, and warped floorboards created a gallery of sorrow, as if the building itself mourned the lives once lived within its walls. In a narrow, winding corridor, the indistinct murmurs began to solidify into a series of dire commands. Do not linger, secrets lie beyond the veil. Abandon what you know. An oppressive heaviness weighed on me, and as I moved deeper, the corridor's geometry seemed to warp in defiance of logic, as if the very structure existed in a realm where time and space had lost meaning. Rounding a corner, I discovered a small, dust-laden room that radiated an eerie, otherworldly energy. There, atop a rickety wooden table, lay a worn leather journal. Its pages were brittle and stained, the ink nearly faded, yet the frantic scrawl of its final entries burned with urgency. The writings told of inexplicable disappearances, of souls lost to an unseen force, and of a cursed object, an object disturbingly reminiscent of the headphones now clamped to my ears. The last entry, scrawled in a trembling hand, read, "They speak through the wires. Beware the order that binds you." The message struck me like a death knell, and at that moment, the voice in the headphones sharpened into a malevolent sneer. "The past is not dead. It awaits your return." I clutched the journal as if it were a talisman and staggered from the room, the building itself seeming to shudder with anticipation. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the tattered drapes resounded like a prelude to calamity. In the oppressive silence, the headphones pulsed with an unholy rhythm, their whispered commands merging with the ambient sounds of decay. With every hesitant step, I felt as if the very walls were conspiring against me, drawing me ever deeper into a labyrinth of ancient curses and unspeakable secrets. As I advanced, the building appeared to breathe, a slow, rhythmic exhalation of despair mingled with the dust of forgotten memories. Every step I took echoed like a solemn dirge, a reminder of lives lost to the relentless march of time. The headphones vibrated with renewed urgency. I could swear the voice now spoke in a chorus of anguished tones, each one a thread in a tapestry woven from centuries of sorrow. The floor creaked under an unseen burden, and the walls seemed to murmur long-held secrets of a time when this place was a sanctuary for the tormented. My every breath tasted of fear and regret, and as I rounded the next bend, I knew with a dread certainty that the true horror was only just beginning. With a final, echoing pulse from the headphones and the disembodied laughter of unseen presences, I stepped deeper into the labyrinth, each step sealing my fate. The night was alive with whispers of despair, and in that harrowing moment, I realized that these used headphones were no mere relic, they were the key to unlocking a terror that had long awaited its turn to devour the living. The moment I crossed the threshold into the deeper recesses of the accursed building, the oppressive atmosphere morphed into something far more sinister. The corridors stretched out in endless, winding turns that seemed to defy the natural laws of space and time. With each hesitant step, the headphones vibrated with a frenetic urgency, a maddening, persistent hum that drowned out even the ragged beating of my heart. The disembodied voice now roared in a cacophony of spectral orders interlaced with guttural whispers that promised torment and oblivion. As I ventured further, the very walls began to convulse with life. Fissures of dark, oozing fluid emerged from the plaster, tracing erratic patterns that resembled ancient sigils. The floor beneath me trembled as if struggling to contain the weight of centuries of hidden sorrows. Every surface was slick with moisture and decay, and the chill in the air grew so intense that I could see my breath crystallize before my eyes. The relentless commands from the headphones, descend, surrender, embrace the night, echoed through the labyrinth, merging with the sound of dripping water and the distant, tormented cries of unseen entities. In one narrow passage, the corridor seemed to warp into a claustrophobic tunnel of shadow. My mind raced, grappling with the surreal nature of my surroundings. The journal I had found earlier, clutched tightly in my hand, trembled as if it were alive. Its pages whispered faintly, urging me to decode the cryptic symbols and ominous passages scrawled in a desperate hand. It told of a time when the building was a haven for souls tormented by a malignant force, a force that had now taken refuge in the form of those very headphones. Each word of the journal seemed to intensify the horror. The relic before me was not merely a conduit for sound, but a harbinger of an ancient curse, binding the living to the despair of the dead. A sudden bone-chilling gust of wind extinguished the few remaining lights, plunging me into a near-total darkness. In that abyss, the headphone's voice evolved into a chorus of anguished tones that reverberated in every fiber of my being. I fumbled for my phone, its weak glow barely piercing the darkness, when a pair of luminous eyes appeared at the far end of the corridor. They glowed with a spectral blue light, unblinking and full of malice. Frozen in terror, I could only watch as the shape of a gaunt figure materialized from the shadows, a figure that wore tattered garments and bore scars that spoke of unspeakable agony. It beckoned with a gnarled hand, and the headphone's voice transformed into a guttural command, "Join us." The figure moved with an unnatural, jerking gait, as if it were being pulled by invisible strings. I wanted to run, to flee from the nightmare that had engulfed me, but my body was paralyzed by an overwhelming force of dread. Every instinct screamed to escape, yet the magnetic pull of the cursed device made my feet stick to the cold, damp floor. I staggered closer, each step accompanied by the relentless chanting from within the headphones, an incantation of despair that promised eternal damnation. The gaunt specter spoke without moving its lips, its voice resonating directly in my skull. It recounted a tale of betrayal and sorrow, a once noble soul condemned to wander these decaying halls, forever tethered to the relic that had stolen its voice. In a moment of ghastly clarity, I realized that the headphones were not merely haunted, they were the instrument of a malevolent pact forged in blood and anguish. They were designed to capture and torment the spirits of the damned, compelling them to serve as eternal messengers of misery. And now, as I stood face to face with the tortured apparition, I could feel that same fate creeping inexorably towards me. The building itself seemed to shudder with a mournful lament, its walls pulsing in time with the spectral heartbeat that now filled the corridor. The oppressive chorus from the headphones reached a fevered pitch, a symphony of horror that transcended mortal understanding. In that climactic moment, the figure extended its withered hand and I felt a searing pain at the base of my skull as if invisible claws were rending my mind apart. The world around me blurred and I was plunged into a vortex of half-formed memories and nightmarish visions, faces contorted in agony, fleeting glimpses of an ancient ritual and the omnipresent echo of that relentless command, remember. I struggled to retain control as the darkness pressed in, feeling my very identity begin to dissolve into the overwhelming void. The voice in the headphones was no longer an external entity, it had become a part of me, a dark whisper in the recesses of my soul, forever entwined with my thoughts. In the midst of the psychic maelstrom, the spectral figure merged with the shadows, its mournful eyes now fixated on me with the promise of eternal servitude. As the last vestiges of my conscious self wavered on the brink of oblivion, I was forced to confront the horrifying truth. The curse was not an external force to be battled, but an inescapable destiny. I had been marked by the cursed headphones from the moment I had dared to listen, and now my fate was sealed. The building, the voices, the tortured souls, they were all part of a dark tapestry that would forever bind me to an existence of relentless torment. In that final, shattering moment, the line between the living and the dead dissolved, and I surrendered to the echoing void of despair, becoming yet another whisper in the endless chorus of the forgotten. Thank you very much and see you all in the next video.